We're talking Renfield. It just came out this week. Well, if we're talking to Cager, Todd's got to be the first to talk. So Todd, tell us all about Renfield and what you thought.
Okay, Renfield is directed by Chris McKay. And so this is a movie this is the marriage of the writer of The Walking Dead, a writer on Rick and Morty, and Zach's number one of 2023's director of The Tomorrow War, or 2021, I guess. And we throw it all in the Cager, and this is what we get. We get Renfield, and Renfield is played by Nicolas Hoult. He is Dracula's longtime familiar, which is basically the person who is his sidekick and gathers up people for Dracula to feed on. He's sort of like a servant in a lot of ways, and he only survives because he has the ability to go beast mode when he eats bugs, and he doesn't age. His goal is finally to break away from Dracula when he realizes he's in an abusive relationship when he joins a group therapy thing. Nicolas Cage is, of course, Dracula, the legendary vampire. Awkwafina is a cop who Renfield sort of falls for. Ben Schwartz is a criminal. Shora Agdashlu is the matriarch of the crime family, and they're sort of after Renfield for killing one of their own. This movie is everything you think it's going to be and more. Cage is out of his mind in this. He plays it up to the max without ever being cartoonish. He takes every single scene absolutely seriously, except for maybe one. But it's what gives the movie its flair. It's not ironic. It works as a horror movie because he isn't a cartoon. And it's a comedy because he's totally a fish out of water since everything else around him is absolutely loony. The makeup work on Cage also is astonishing. Like Robert Kirkman definitely had some influence on that. Like he's the mastermind behind The Walking Dead and his groundbreaking prosthetic makeup. Like the makeup work on Cage is amazing. Nicolas Hoult is an actor I've never really understood until maybe this movie. He is always a side character in really popular movies, but here I see what his impact is. It could have been like a Robert Pattinson role, which is sort of what he's going for, but that would have been so gloomy. Here he is like has this like effortless way about him that is light and a little kooky, which makes me the only thing I could think of other to compare it to really is like Warm Bodies, which he also starred in his like rare leading role. Ben Schwartz is nuts in this. He unmistakably reminded me of Ewan McGregor in Birds of Prey. Like that level of like coked out madman villain is always fun to see. But this movie is totally rushed. Like it really just hits its stride right when the final scenes are starting. Some of the action set pieces fall flat, even when they're just like soaked in blood. It kind of ends abruptly, and it leaves room for continuing some characters, I guess. But it gets repetitive, which is a similar issue I had with the Super Mario Brothers movie. The action gets a little old when there isn't any variance in what you're watching. But there are some concepts that I had never really considered before, and some images that are pretty memorable and creative things. Like I've never seen a vampire like shoot off into several bats and the bats get like taken by the light. That was interesting. It's a mixed bag, but it is fun to watch. I just written down like it's a giant bug that Renfield swallows, but it because it gives you a jolt, but it has no nutritional value, and that's kind of what I feel about this movie. 2.5 stars, which puts it number 56 on the Cager, which naturally just comes between Vampire's Kiss and Dying of the Light because vampires die of it.
All right, well, 2.5 stars from Todd. I'll go next on this. I'm giving this 2 stars. It's got some great stuff to it, but its best features are the things it doesn't focus on. I think Nicolas Hoult is really good in this at times. I think some of the best scenes are when he's in the group therapy sessions. There's just some really fun stuff that happens in those scenes. Nicolas Cage is out of his mind, but he's on screen for maybe like 15 minutes and that's it. I feel like he's completely underutilized, especially if we're going to get Cage to be Dracula. And I never realized it, but he kind of looks like Christopher Lee. Everything that's promoting this is talking about Nicolas Hoult and Nicolas Cage, and this is what the movie is all about. And then you watch the movie, and it's really about Awkwafina and her fighting like police corruption and the crime syndicate led by Ben Schwartz, the son of Shore Agdashlu. What is going on? Yeah. It spends like most of the movie focusing on that. I agree, it's way too rushed too. Because when you're like, okay, we need to actually focus on the important stuff, like what's going on with Renfield, we get more like moral decisions with Awkwafina who doesn't work in this role. I've kind of gotten tired of like the Awkwafina thing. It takes a special niche for it to work, and this is not it. Ben Schwartz actually isn't horrible, which is impressive because he usually is in most of what I've seen him in. But I don't know, 2 stars. It was just kind of dumb when it could have been really cool because it had some really cool stuff going on. Zach, what do you think?
Can we? I'll just say, can you cue the soundbite? I love silly. I love stupid.
There you go.
That is my review of this movie. You guys are being way too hard on it, okay? I had a great time at this movie. First of all, I saw it on a Thursday night. I've been liking doing the Thursday night screenings. It's like a day before, so you feel like you're getting kind of an exclusive glimpse at it. You guys are being way too hard on this movie, okay? I gave that prelude to say the moment this movie started, I was awake. I did not fall asleep at all during this movie. I did not look at my watch at all. I didn't look at my phone. I was really entertained by it. First of all, great concept, okay? I love the idea that Dracula's assistant is desperate for victims, and so he goes to, this support group for people that are in abusive relationships with narcissists. At first, because he is in a relationship with one, but then you kind of see that it's to find other victims. I thought that was a very clever premise, and I think those scenes, like you mentioned, Todd, are really fun. Nicolas Cage, he's tremendous.
We saw that in Breaking Bad, though.
Oh, but Breaking Bad is a serious movie or a serious show. Like this has fun with those meetings. It felt like Fight Club a little bit. It had that same kind of charm. Nicolas Cage, I don't want him to be the star of this movie. He works best as a supporting character at this point in his career, and he's great in this movie. Like, well, in these kind of roles, I mean, obviously he could be a lead character, but in this kind of role, like, I think he's great. The costumes in it, the wardrobe, the teeth are wonderful. This is the Cage that I know and I love. And I do have a joke, which is, why are vampires such lousy comedians? Because all their jokes suck. Anyway,
wow.
Back to the podcast. I love Awkwafina, and if you look at my track record with Awkwafina movies, I don't think I've ever given an Awkwafina movie a thumbs down. I think she's charming in this movie. She's a breath of fresh air. She's the only real sane character in this movie. She's sort of the straight man. She's great. To me, she reminded me of a real life character who's based on Officer Hops in Zootopia. She's like trying to disrupt the world of corruption. She's the only one standing up for justice. I think she's great. She's very funny in the movie.
That is a great call. That is a great call.
They have a great rapport, and I love that the movie doesn't have to make it romantic. It can be flirtatious. The movie is effervescent. It's light. Okay, I had a great time at this movie. I love the dynamic between the different, the underground New Orleans crime syndicate, which is odd after just watching the other week Shohreh Aghdashloo also leading an underground crime syndicate in a major city, which was kind of fun. I also think that this movie had like a little bit of Jackie Brown in it, in the sense that, like, this Renfield character is torn between her corrupt boss and also someone who's working on behalf of the not corrupt authorities. And he tries to double cross them in a way. Look, I'm not saying this movie's a masterpiece. I'm saying that you guys are being way too hard on it. This is a movie that when it comes to HBO Max, I will put it on and gladly watch again. And maybe not the whole thing, but different parts of it. I was smiling throughout this movie. All that was missing was Nicolas Cage saying, "I'm a vampire, I'm a vampire." And can we give a shout out to the two Nikolai? Okay, Uncle Nikolai. The two Nikolai are great in this movie. I had a great time. I really want to give it 3.5 stars just to shove it to you guys. I have to be honest. I'll only give it 3. I texted Adam before this movie after I'd seen it and said, "Listen, man, Terry and Todd are not going to like this movie. You and I got to band together. We like this movie. This is an Adam and Zach movie. It's a fun movie. Go see it. Don't listen to the critics. It's a great time."
This is the most Zach movie ever made. You got to see it.
Okay, I do enjoy a lot of the movie, but it's not good. I'm not going to pretend that this movie is good. I mean, I've seen all of the Cagers. Like, he definitely gives a great performance, but like everything around him is just sort of like stale. I mean, it is super like stylized, but it's stale.
Listen, this movie is not a franchise. It's not 2.5 hours long. It
It could
doesn't
be a
involve.
franchise. Like
It
I
doesn't
think they
involve
definitely could, they're gonna continue with some of these characters. I know
It
they
doesn't
are.
involve multiverses. It doesn't involve the end of the whole freaking world.
It kind of involves multiverses, or just multi storylines.
Yeah,
Or
multiple storylines, sure, because it's a good screenplay.
multi timelines. I mean,
My only criticism this movie, it's really the only criticism I have, because I had a great time watching it. I'm not really sure why the director felt like he had to go over the top Tarantino like violence. Like, was it because he wanted to secure an R rating? But like the violence in this movie was like crazy over the top, and I'm not really sure why.
Violence,
People were laughing at it, so I guess it served its purpose. I didn't really see the point of it, but honestly, this was like, if you were charting what I thought of this movie through the course of its 95 minutes, it was always a thumbs up. I was rooting for this movie, and I had a blast.
The only time that Cage doesn't play Dracula absolutely seriously is when he gets into Renfield's apartment and he's like, "Oh yeah, okay," and he's like, "Continue talking." Oh yeah, yeah. Like that was the only time I was like, "Okay, there's your little Nick Cage like quirkiness." Other than that, like he is playing Dracula absolutely seriously, which is what I enjoy most about the movie.
I love his rapport with Renfield, like how he busts his balls for the new outfit that he's wearing. Like that was great.
That was some of the best parts of the movie. You're right.
The movie has a great kind of comic sensibility in their relationship, and I think Renfield is a fascinating. It's kind of like Richard Jenkins in Let Me In if the movie was a comedy, and I think there's real comic potential in that concept. And you guys are being too tough. Like, come on, we are in the midst of a death of cinema. Okay, it is nice to have a movie that isn't overly ambitious, is kind of satisfied with being stupid and funny at the same time, and has Awkwafina in it, because you guys are missing out. I think Awkwafina is a great actor. I'm not tired of her at all. I want to see more of Awkwafina.
Yeah, see, I watched a trailer for this, and you get just that little taste of Awkwafina where she's gives that line of, "You're like the guy who gets the villain's Postmates," which didn't even show up in the movie, which I thought was kind of interesting. And the second I saw that tiny little clip in the trailer, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna hate that character. And she ended up being the main character. Like, if you're gonna say someone is the main character of this, it's probably her before Renfield.
Just because there are cutaway scenes with her as the main character in it doesn't make her the main character. But she's a fascinating character. She's got interesting family dynamics. She's standing up for what's
you're
right.
You're alone on that, Zach. I'm definitely more on Sarah. Like she was the worst part of Shang-Chi, and I don't know. I mean, everything other than the farewell. Like I don't know that she really should be in movies.
She kind of works in Shang-Chi though. I didn't mind her there because her the way, like, she's got, like I said, she has a niche and it fit for that movie. Yeah, she's great in the farewell because she's not doing her shtick. I think she works in Ocean's 8, which was the first time I ever saw her, but that's because she's not doing her shtick.
I don't think she's doing her shtick here either. Just because she has funny lines doesn't mean that it's the same persona. She's not Nora from Queens. Whatever. I defy you to find another actor that could play that role in quite that way. And I think she's a treasure. I do think if this movie was made 30 years ago, Whoopi Goldberg would play that role. But I don't think there's a lot of other actresses who could accomplish that balance. I'm not saying this is a great movie. I think critics are being too hard on this movie. I actually think we're probably all closer than we realize to a consensus of this movie.
Adam says a high 3 stars.
There we go. Man. Should put money on that.
So another thing I noticed, I don't know if you guys noticed this too, or it may have just been my theater. The sound felt off watching this too. I don't know. It like dialogue, it sounded like was very like boomy and like had static in it. I felt like they tried to ramp up the bass in Shora Agdashlu's voice, and so it was like rumbling. Maybe the speakers were just bad in my screen, but
I think you're just crazy about her voice. Like this is like the second out of 3 podcasts that you've been like talking about her voice.
No, but it like, she sounded normal, but then all of a sudden it was like woo, woo, woo. Like there was that sound, and I don't know if it was just the speakers in the theater.
Did you go to like
RPX
RPX or something?
No, I wasn't.
It
was weird. Anyways, all right. So 2 from me, 2.5 from Todd, 3 stars from Zach, 3 stars also from Adam, because apparently this is a Zach and Adam movie.
It is. This is where the Zach and Adam intercept.
Yeah.
Or overlap. Stupid vampires. Dracula Dead loving it. I know Adam's a fan.
Let's hear it one more time.
I love silly. I love stupid.